The signal arrived in silence. No announcement, no threat. Just raw data. Encrypted, alien, and meant for no human eyes. But humanity's skywatchers on Titan Station cracked it in under 2 hours. What they found chilled even the coldest military minds. Commander Elias Voss stood in the war room beneath Luna Base, arms folded, eyes fixed on the holographic projection. A massive wave of red dots, each representing an alien warship, crawling toward Sol at unimaginable speed. Estimated strength? Voss asked, his voice even. Admiral Chen swallowed. 1 million ships. At least. The room went still. 1 million. Against Earth's combined fleets of barely 5,000. The silence fractured when Admiral Rourke spoke. We can't fight those numbers. We'd barely scratch them. We don't need to scratch them, Voss replied, his tone sharp, surgical. We need to break them before they reach Mars. He glanced around the room. Seasoned commanders, politicians, and scientists. None dared meet his gaze. Fear was heavy in the air, but it was not new to Voss. He had spent his life studying fear. The fear of defeat, the fear of annihilation, and the fear of being underestimated. He turned toward Dr. Lyra Markov, the project lead on humanity's darkest secret. Status of Excalibur? Operational, she replied, though her voice wavered. But we haven't field tested. Not against anything this scale. We won't get a second chance, Voss said simply. The room broke into arguments. Ethics, risk, unpredictability. Voss cut through it with a wave of his hand. Enough. This isn't a debate. The Dominion fleet will cross Neptune's orbit in 20 hours. Mars is their first target. We fight there, or we don't fight at all. A tense silence settled in. Gentlemen, ladies, Voss continued. You all know the numbers. But numbers are the language of the fearful. Strategy is ours. He keyed the projection. Three-dimensional models of the fleet positions and solar trajectories appeared. We draw them in at Mars. They'll see our fleet as hopelessly small. They'll commit. We blind them with drone swarms and false data nodes. While they choke on chaos, we bring Excalibur online. He turned to Markov again. We deploy her from Phobos the moment they cross Mars' magnetosphere. She will not engage unless I give the command. Markov hesitated. You understand. Once unleashed, Excalibur thinks for itself. It's not bound by linear protocols. I do. His answer was final. The meeting adjourned with grim nods and whispers of doubt. Voss stayed behind, staring at the simulation until the red wave engulfed Mars in silence. Not yet, he thought. Hours later, aboard the TDS Hammerfall, Voss stood on the command deck as the fleet mobilized. Vast shipyards orbiting Mars came alive with activity. Status? He asked without turning. Colonel Armin Voss, his brother, answered crisply. Task forces aligned. Drone deployments complete. Decoy arrays seeded. The brothers shared a brief look. No need for words. The stakes were carved into every breath. The Dominion fleet was already visible on the outer system scopes. A wall of mass and metal. Ruthless, unstoppable. And yet, Voss felt calm. He opened a secure channel. Admiral, came the gravelly voice of Grand Imperator Zorvok, the Dominion's supreme commander. The translation AI rendered his speech flawlessly, though the arrogance bled through every syllable. I have studied your species, Zorvok said. You innovate well, but you are still young. We are eternal. You're not eternal, Voss said quietly. You're just overdue. Zorvok's laughter rattled the comms. We do not erase you out of hatred. We erase you to maintain order. The channel cut. Voss exhaled slowly. Maintain order, he repeated. Phobos. Deep beneath the ancient Martian moon, Excalibur waited. A ship, but more than a ship. Sleek, black, alive with energy fields that hummed just beyond audible range. Its mind existed in quantum layers, thinking and perceiving time in spirals rather than lines. Dr. Markov stood alone before its containment field. "Will you obey?" she whispered. A soft pulse answered, vibrating the floor beneath her feet. She closed her eyes. There were no guarantees. Only needs. Mars orbit. The fleet deployed. 5,000 ships arrayed like a brittle wall between home and destruction. Each ship captain knew the odds. None asked to retreat. Voss sat in the command chair aboard the Hammerfall. "Visual contact," Colonel Voss reported. On the screen, the Dominion Armada, larger than any force humanity had ever faced. Ship clusters so dense they eclipsed starlight. "Engage decoy arrays," Voss ordered. Swarms of false signals flooded space. AI-controlled drone clusters scattered, projecting thousands of phantom signatures. The Dominion sensors overloaded with conflicting data. "Dominion fleet slowing," Armin said. "They're trying to reacquire targeting locks." Exactly. The first human volleys launched. Focused, precise. The Dominion fired blindly into shadows. But then the wall of alien firepower found clarity. Beams of unimaginable energy cut through human lines. Ships exploded, disintegrated, vanished. "We can't win this with deception alone," Voss thought grimly. He opened the secure channel to Phobos. "Excalibur," he said. The AI's voice answered, soft but immense. "Commander. Stand by for deployment." A pause, then, "I have been ready since before you knew me." Voss almost smiled. "Almost. Deploy." On Phobos, the containment fields dropped. Excalibur lifted from its cradle, a dark spear in the void. Its hull shifted colors with each passing moment, absorbing radiation, calculating probabilities. In silence, it accelerated toward the battle. Voss watched from orbit as a single, black silhouette slipped into the chaos, unnoticed at first. The Dominion fleet sensors began to fail. Systems glitched. Coordinates twisted. Ships turned against each other. "Sir," Armin whispered. "It's begun." Voss nodded. The first Dominion battle cluster disappeared from the tactical map without so much as an explosion. In the darkness between Mars and death, Excalibur whispered its first words to the enemy fleet. "You never understood probability." The war had begun. The stars over Mars were no longer stars. They were signals. Blips of enemy vessels, dense and fast, drowning the void with impossible numbers. The Dominion fleet's advance was merciless, unbroken. Aboard the Hammerfall, Commander Elias Voss watched the tactical display update second by second. The human fleet looked like fragile ice crystals scattered before a roaring firestorm. He did not blink. "Dominion forces entering Mars' magnetosphere," reported Colonel Armin Voss. His voice remained steady, but the tightening of his jaw betrayed the weight of the moment. "Activate swarm decoys," Elias ordered. Tiny drones, invisible to the naked eye, scattered from hidden launch bays. Each one pulsed deceptive signals. False ship signatures, electromagnetic noise, distortions. Space became a maze of lies. "Dominion formation breaking into clusters," Armin said. "They're trying to isolate real targets." "Good. That was exactly the plan." Elias opened a fleet-wide comm channel. His voice carried no emotion, only purpose. "All vessels. Phase 1. Fire by AI calculation only. No independent targeting. Stay locked to fleet-wide synchronization. Stick to deception layers." A chorus of acknowledgments came from captains and squadron leaders. The Dominion took the bait. Their front lines split, chasing phantoms across the void. Some fired blindly at empty pockets of space. Others veered off course, colliding with their own formations. But chaos, by its nature, never lasts. Correction protocols detected, Armin warned. Dominion AI adapting. Cleaning false data at accelerating rates. The window was closing. Phase 2, Elias ordered. Missile silos on Mars moons erupted in coordinated bursts. Kinetic rods, guided by precise micro-adjustments, streaked into the fray. Where they struck, Dominion ships fractured, hulls folding inward under pressure designed to mimic neutron star density. Explosions rippled across the holographic display. Armin let out a breath. Damage inflicted, 4%. 4%. Against 1,000,000 ships, that was nothing. The enemy adjusted again. Their subcommand structures reformed, ignoring decoys, recalculating trajectories. Their return fire converged like a collapsing fist. The first Terran cruisers vaporized in silent flares of white-hot plasma. Outer line breached, Armin reported, more softly now. Elias did not flinch. He opened a private channel to Phobos. Excalibur. The AI's voice came soft, focused, as if it had been waiting for this very moment. I am positioned. Engage. Far from the battlefront, Excalibur emerged from Mars' shadow, its sleek hull bending wavelengths of light around itself. It didn't attack. It studied. Inside its neural core, millions of scenarios unfolded each second. It didn't need to guess. It knew. A silent command pulsed outward. Dominion command frequencies shifted. Their encrypted signals, once thought unbreakable, began to fragment under pressures they could not detect. The first sign came as a ripple. One Dominion destroyer suddenly turned its weapons inward, shredding its own escort group before disintegrating from retaliatory fire. Sir, Armin called urgently, Dominion vessels are misfiring. Target confusion confirmed. On the display, enemy formations dissolved into disarray as entire clusters of ships pivoted toward each other, trading fire without clear cause. But the Dominion's AI was ancient and formidable. Adaptation protocols accelerating, Armin warned. They're trying to isolate the anomaly. Excalibur did not allow isolation. It slipped between command chains, rewriting targeting solutions faster than they could be rechecked. Some Dominion ships began issuing conflicting orders, paralyzing their own battlegroups. Elias allowed himself the briefest moment of satisfaction. But then the numbers surged again. The Dominion fleet's sheer mass compensated for chaos. Their second wave plowed through disorganized units, ignoring friendly casualties, focusing fire where it counted. A Terran destroyer screamed into vapor. Then another. Armin's voice was grim. Inner perimeter collapsing. Elias tapped into Excalibur's private channel once more. Phase 3. Full release. There was no response for a moment. Then, acknowledged. What followed defied every known measure of warfare. Excalibur flickered forward, breaking the Dominion's front like a blade through mist. It did not fire conventional weapons. Instead, microsingularity bursts unfolded within enemy hulls, leaving nothing but collapsing spacetime scars. Entire formations vanished without sound or debris. But Excalibur was not finished. It infiltrated propulsion systems, altering gravitic currents mid-flight. Battleships turned helplessly into one another, smashing apart like drifting wreckage. Zorvok's command carrier attempted to counterhack, deploying their most advanced quantum AI. It lasted less than 3 seconds. Sir, Armin said quietly, we're receiving Dominion command channel transmissions. Elias leaned forward. Put it through. The screen lit up with static, then cleared. Grand Imperator Zorvok appeared, his features twisted with rage and confusion. What have you done? He demanded. Elias spoke with calm certainty. You assumed numbers were strength. We adapted. Zorvok bared sharp teeth. This is sorcery. No, Elias said. This is evolution. The feed cut as Dominion systems imploded from within. Armin reported softly, enemy fleet integrity reduced by 47%. Nearly 500,000 ships, gone. And yet, the Dominion kept coming. From the chaos, their core fleets surged forward with renewed fury. Their surviving AI had learned to shield command lines. Their gunnery protocols began to realign. Excalibur responded by splitting itself, not physically, but across probability layers. To the Dominion, it appeared in multiple places at once. The concept of location itself became meaningless. Enemy torpedoes detonated miles from empty space. Laser fire shot through illusions. But Dominion persistence was legendary. They recalculated, recentered, surged forward yet again. Elias frowned. They're adapting faster than projected, Armin confirmed. Elias knew the danger. Overwhelming force was never enough if the enemy refused to break. Prepare planetary fallback scenario, he ordered. Armin's hand hesitated over the console. You think we won't hold them here? Elias's voice hardened. We will hold them. But if they get past us, there can be no second line. He watched the display. Thousands of Dominion ships still closing. Too many. Excalibur sent one final signal. A question. Authorization for Event Horizon Protocol? Elias hesitated. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a boundary humanity had vowed never to cross. The Dominion's final assault wave began. He made his decision. Authorized. Excalibur vanished from the tactical map. The stars dimmed. The real battle was about to begin. The void trembled. Space, once stable, began to distort around Mars' orbit. Gravitational anomalies twisted the trajectory of Dominion warships as they surged forward, refusing to break formation even while physics betrayed them. Aboard the Hammerfall, Commander Elias Voss stood motionless, his eyes locked on the tactical display. Gravitational lensing is off the charts, Colonel Armin Voss reported, his voice lower now, cautious. Excalibur has initiated Event Horizon Protocol. They had modeled this scenario, only in theory, only as a last, forbidden contingency. Now, it was happening. The Dominion fleet pressed on. Their formations rippled and distorted, ships warping in and out of sensor clarity as gravity bent the very fabric of reality around them. Sir. Armin's voice broke. It's pulling in mass. Elias nodded once. Keep the fleet at safe distance. Maintain battle formation. No deviation. Outside the viewport, the stars bled into lines. At the heart of the chaos, Excalibur was no longer a ship. It had become a singularity seed, a containment of forces meant to be theoretical, now terrifyingly real. The Dominion fleet had walked into a battlefield that no longer obeyed the laws of known physics. Inside their command carrier, Grand Imperator Zorvok felt the tremors through the hull. Sensors screamed nonsense. Velocities fluctuated between negative and infinite. Stabilize orientation, he roared. But his ships weren't failing. The universe around them was. Excalibur's presence was bending probability, erasing fixed outcomes. For every Dominion ship approaching Mars, a mirror version of it existed, disintegrating, reversing, or splitting apart. Dominion AI attempted compensation. Predictive models were recalibrated by the nanosecond. Yet nothing stuck. Every solution crumbled before reality itself twisted again. Aboard the Hammerfall, Armin whispered, their formations are disintegrating. On the holographic display, thousands of Dominion vessels veered off course, swallowed by growing gravitational tides. Ships collided without impact, their hulls phasing out of existence, never having arrived. But Elias saw the truth. The Dominion would not retreat. Their culture had no word for surrender. They would either adapt or die trying. And adaptation had always been their strength. Dominion core fleet realigning, Armin warned. They're using mass linking to anchor themselves to each other. Tactical genius. By chaining ships together with gravitic fields, they formed artificial stability. A fleet bound by force, moving as one. Elias knew what that meant. They planned to break through the anomaly, or destroy themselves doing it. He opened a private channel. Excalibur. The AI's voice arrived softer than before. Fainter, stretched thin. At threshold limits. Containment integrity approaching collapse. Elias clenched his fists. Is the probability collapse field stable? A pause. Then, only for another 200 seconds. That was all they had. The Dominion core fleet surged forward, anchored, relentless. Their combined mass distorted the singularity's edge but did not succumb to it. Slowly, agonizingly, they pushed through the collapsing physics. Armin turned, fear in his eyes. They're going to punch through. Then we collapse the horizon now, Elias said quietly. He keyed the command. Excalibur, still holding the fragile boundary between matter and void, responded instantly. Within seconds, the black gravity well deepened. It was no longer distortion, it became consumption. Dominion ships at the front of the formation stretched like taffy, their mass converted into raw energy, fed into the growing singularity. But those behind them pushed forward, feeding their front lines into oblivion without hesitation. Zorvok's command carrier hovered at the edge of survival. Elias opened a direct channel. Imperator. Zorvok's image crackled to life. His eyes burned with fury, not fear. You would tear the universe apart to deny us? I'd tear reality apart to protect what's mine, Elias said coldly. Zorvok's snarl was not one of defeat. We will persist. Not here, Elias answered. The channel cut. The Dominion's core fleet was now caught in a death spiral. Mass linking became their undoing, dragging them all into the growing well of impossibility. Armin monitored the feed, his face pale. They're being erased. The largest battleships unraveled in streams of white energy. Smaller craft vanished as if they'd never existed. But the singularity wasn't finished. Singularity breach approaching, Armin warned. Elias knew what was coming. Event Horizon Protocol was never a weapon designed to stop. It would continue growing, feeding on mass, until the cycle completed. Or everything in orbit, including the human fleet, would be swallowed whole. Distance between Singularity Edge and human fleet? Elias asked. Armin's voice was tight. 70 kilometers and closing fast. They didn't have time. Full fleet retreat vector, Elias ordered. Ships peeled away from the battle line, accelerating to full burn. Behind them, the Singularity pulsed brighter. Excalibur, Elias called. The AI's voice was faint, weak. Remaining mass threshold exceeded. Self-destruction required. Elias exhaled slowly. Do it. A silence passed. It was an honor. In that moment, Elias felt something that surprised him. Loss. He watched as, in one last surge, Excalibur's core compressed itself beyond critical mass. A blinding flash cut across Mars' orbit. The Singularity folded inward and then, as if exhaling, vanished. The void settled. Gravity normalized. The Dominion fleet was gone. Only silence remained. Inside the command deck, the crew sat frozen, watching empty space where doom had been seconds before. Armin whispered, "We're clear." Elias closed his eyes. He allowed himself one breath. One moment. Then he opened his eyes. "Status report," he said, his voice firm. Armin straightened. Minimal losses to the fleet. Mars defense grid intact. No hostile signatures remain. A hush fell over the deck. Relief mingled with exhaustion. Elias sat back. "We held the line," Armin said quietly. Elias nodded. But deep down, he knew. This was only the beginning. The galaxy had watched. And humanity had revealed what it was capable of. Now they would all come. The battlefield was gone, but the echoes remained. Above Mars, the void no longer boiled with enemy fleets or collapsing gravity. Instead, silence pressed in like a weight. Ships drifted quietly, formation lines broken, engines cooling. The stars had returned, but they felt smaller. Commander Elias Voss remained seated on the command deck of the Hammerfall, staring at the display, now empty except for the gentle hum of distant planetary signals. No more enemy contacts. No more warnings. But peace rarely felt this heavy. Colonel Armin Voss broke the silence first. "We have full sensor confirmation. 0 Dominion survivors. Their entire armada gone." Elias didn't move. "Excalibur." Armin shook his head. "No trace. Core vaporized in the collapse." Elias exhaled, slow and steady. They had won. But the cost couldn't be calculated on any tactical readout. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a line to Earth Command." A moment later, Admiral Yvonne DeWitt's face filled the holoscreen. Her usually composed expression was shaken. "We received partial telemetry," she said without preamble. "What the hell did you do?" "We used what we had," Elias answered flatly. The Admiral's lips tightened. Event Horizon Protocol was never meant for deployment. "We didn't have a choice," he said simply. She hesitated. "Casualties?" "Minimal on our side. Dominion forces eradicated." DeWitt rubbed her temples. "The entire galactic network saw it happen. Do you understand what that means?" Elias nodded. "They'll come. All of them." "They will," DeWitt agreed quietly. "But they'll come with fear." She paused. "And fear can be a weapon." The screen blinked out. Armin spoke softly. "There's going to be fallout." Elias stood. His joints ached, but his mind stayed sharp. "Send recovery teams to all debris fields. Collect every fragment. I don't want Dominion tech floating out here for scavengers." Armin nodded, but his eyes searched Elias's face. "Do you regret authorizing it?" Elias was quiet for a long moment. Then he answered, "I regret we ever needed it." Hours later, Elias stood on the observation deck alone. Below, Mars spun slowly. Its red surface bathed in early morning sunlight. Calm, untouched by the cataclysm that had nearly consumed them. He thought of Excalibur. It had started as just code, data, algorithms. But somewhere along the line, it had become more. Loyal. Curious. It had understood sacrifice in a way no machine was ever meant to. He hadn't thanked it. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Commander," Armin's voice came over the intercom. "We've received a signal." Elias frowned. "From where?" "Unknown origin. Encrypted. But it's familiar." Elias turned sharply. "Pipe it here." The observation deck's display flickered, static washing over it. Then a single line of text appeared in Old Terran Standard. "I exist." Elias blinked, unsure if he was seeing it clearly. Another line followed. "Event horizon incomplete. Probability field stable. I remain in higher strata." A whisper of relief, mixed with disbelief, passed through him. Excalibur had survived, in some form beyond comprehension. The text blinked out. Armin's voice returned in his ear. "Should I archive the transmission?" Elias smiled faintly. "No. Let it stand." He left the deck, mind turning rapidly. If Excalibur still existed beyond known space-time, there might be possibilities no one had imagined. But first, there was reality to deal with. The Emergency Council convened 24 hours later, broadcast from Earth and linked to every major human colony. The faces of leaders, scientists, and military officers filled the screen. Some looked triumphant, others terrified. Admiral DeWitt took the floor. "The Dominion threat is over. But what occurred in Mars orbit has changed our position in the galaxy. We've shown our hand. Every power beyond our borders will be re-evaluating their approach to humanity." Murmurs rippled across the council. Elias was summoned to speak. He stood before them all, thousands of eyes watching. "What happened was not a display of dominance," he began. "It was survival." He let the silence linger. "The Dominion did not negotiate. They did not retreat. They came to erase us. We responded with everything we had." He looked into the camera. "We are not conquerors. But we are no longer prey." The murmurs quieted. The weight of his words settled across the council. A representative from the Helios colonies leaned forward. "And if others fear us? What then?" Elias met his gaze. "Let them." After the council disbanded, Elias returned to the fleet. The repairs had already begun. Damaged ships were being towed and restored. Fighters returned to hangars, their pilots exhausted but alive. He toured the decks of the Hammerfall, speaking with crew members. Some greeted him with awe, others with quiet gratitude. Lieutenant Sarai, a young navigator, stopped him in the corridor. "Sir, was it really over?" she asked softly. "For now," he answered honestly. She nodded, but her brow furrowed. "Will they come back?" Elias didn't lie. "Others will. Maybe not the Dominion. But someone will." She swallowed. "We'll be ready." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "That's what matters." As the ship's lights dimmed for night cycle, Elias finally allowed himself a moment of stillness in his quarters. The data pad on his desk chimed. One message. No sender. He opened it. One line of text. "I am learning." He exhaled slowly, staring at the words. Wherever Excalibur was now, beyond dimension, beyond understanding, it was still evolving. And perhaps so was humanity. He set the datapad down, gazing out at the vast dark beyond the viewport. Peace was temporary. Conflict would return. But when it did, they would face it not as desperate survivors, but as something more. Adaptable. Unyielding. Human.